very funny video.
Alright, I started already.
Finally you're here.
Took the train in the wrong direction?
Tired, man. Tired from the work.
Toby, you again. Jeez.
Same man, same table, same side.
Yeah.
He told him that you have like no more storm troll jokes.
Yeah. I need to go and get my coffee.
But I know I changed the software and said that maybe to record your game. You know, you're an unlucky person to. Maybe. Yes, it's not.
There was a lot of prints, but this time it was not the best.
And then we'll just be like,
Yeah, I'm just gonna go get a coffee and I'll be back.
oh, power cable come out. Oh, I lost everything. You have to try better than that. It's a laptop, so we can go for 2 hours.
So how do we do delete?
I have nothing to do. I have no other stuff on my list.
But that coffee's not free, is it?
No.
And nothing for Penny. But by all means, post it.
I think that was not big great for my friends now.
She is clearly much bigger than his house, so I would on that. That will be my come up. What's the first series, Madrak? What's the first series, Madrak?
Yes. Pre-ID Madrak.
I often, on a lot of scenarios, I think you are ready, I can start volumes.
I've got a couple. Yeah, but you pay for them. Don't cheat yourself.
Okay. I need to go. Gentlemen, first cup is running. You have 2 hours starting now.
Going for a walk.
The only thing that I can do is to jump in and
Purchase gun range 10. So 16 as a Julian about information. So orange everything is possible.
Walking
He's just done 16.
It's magic!
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you wherever you are. We are coming to you live from the 2017 ClogCon Invitational. We are seeing here Marcin, damn those Polish names, Novici going up against Toby Nathan's Trolls here. Having just begun the game, Marcin is currently playing out his first turn. Let's take a look at what both players have brought in their lists and then take a quick peek at the scenario. Marcin is playing a Haley3 theme list in the Gravediggers theme. In his battle group, he features 2 Grenadiers and a Firefly. He has a Finn, a Hitch, and 2 Trencher Busters, all of which are for free. He has a Ragman, a Dog, and a 4 units in total, being a unit of Trencher Long Gunners with the UA, a unit of Trencher Infantry, and a unit of Trencher Commanders with UA, followed up by a Yanan Halt with Murdoch. And on the other side of the table, across from him, we have Toby Nathan with his Madrak1 Band of Heroes theme force, featuring Madrak himself, who is positioned right there, across from, I believe, Haley3 being right here. His battle group consists of a Bomber and a Bouncer, having switched it up a little bit from his army list that we saw yesterday. He also has a free Runebearer, a free Fellcaller, a free Trollkin Hero. In addition to this, he has a Stone Scribe Chronicler, a Gorbachev, a minimum unit of Krill Stone, a maximum unit of Krill Warriors, a maximum unit of Krill Champions with Scaldi and a Sorcerer, a max unit of Champions, and a min unit of Warders. So, as Marcin is wrapping up the placement on his first turn, I'm just going to take a closer look at the table and let you know where all of the relevant, important models are.
No, I have a beat. Let's introduce all of my three models, plus 4 inches control range, plus 5 to my range of spells. All my spells plus 1 less, and every model in my battlefield re-rolls attack rolls. 17 building. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay, so let's take a look at some overall placement for these two players. Marcin's Cygnar forces are arranged in a manner whereby the Trencher infantry is leading out front. The Trencher commandos are mainly around here in this flank section, with the long gunner section being tucked away in the rear. He has his Firefly positioned right here with, I believe, with the Grenadier here and here. He has the Shield Guard solo in the Trench Buster right here, and I believe there's another one tucked away up here somewhere as well. We have a dog down bottom here. We have the 3 Haleys right here. Ayana and Holt flanking them, and then Finn and Hitch hanging out there, and I believe, I'm not sure where Hitch is right now. On Toby's side, we have the bear unit of maximum troll champions over here. We have the troll, the stone making up this central block right here. Flanking that, we have Madrak1, who's just behind. Let's just take a quick top view. We have Madrak1, who I believe is right here. So Toby's just finished activating his Minstone, and he's doing his appears to be his warders now. And that Min unit, who he's just kind of spread out to provide a fairly wide shield guard bubble. We have the bomber right here. We have the Krill Warriors making up the right-hand flank with a Fellcaller, and also I believe the Stone Scribe Chronicler being right here. So still going to be whooping for strength. And whilst Toby's planning out his positioning now for this turn, we're not going to be expecting any serious casualties. So we're just going to take a look at the scenario, which is actually not this one. The pit being a scenario we had played yesterday for the finals. we're actually going to be looking at recon. Now, in this particular scenario, there are a total of 6 scenario elements. The 2 prominent ones obviously being the rectangular zones on the respective left and right hand side, located on the midline between the 2 players. Each of these zones has on the player's respective right hand side also a flag. And then each player on his own center line has a respective friendly objective, which can be destroyed for 1 control point. The zones can be controlled for 1 point, and the flag can be captured by solos and warcasters for 1 point. So obviously a very popular strategy in this particular scenario is to make a heavy push down one particular zone, either in order to push the enemy not only out of this zone, but also far enough away from this flag so that your warcaster can stand right here and score both of these elements a turn. Alternatively, you can also make a play for your opponent's vertical zone. I believe we just saw some bomber shots attempted to catch some of the trenches, having failed to do so. So yeah, there's a very powerful play in pushing this particular zone very heavily, being able to contest your opponent's flag and then somehow trying to mitigate your opponent's ability to contest this own flag, and then just having a cheap solo sit over here and control this bottom flag. Stealth solos are especially good at this, forcing people to get within a very short distance of the particular solo to try and engage them. That's allowing you to counter and kill whatever tried to remove your controlling solo. Which is why it's nice to have multiple stealth solos, whereby you can place one here to capture this flag, and then you can have just one guy just sitting back here waiting to take his place as soon as that first solo is killed. The Retribution Void Tracer solos being absolutely perfect for this. Mainly because of the fact that they only cost 2 points, they have inherent stealth, and they also have the ability to not be targeted by magic, which makes removing them a lot harder. So what we're seeing from Toby now is the run order from the Creel Warriors, and it looks like, I'm just going to check if those models are in fact all base to base, or no, it doesn't appear to be base to base. There's definitely a clear line of sight through some of these models here. So he's not really attempting to form a physical line of sight blocking screen. He is merely going to push hard and try and make a hard push, and he probably wants the fight to be somewhere just past the edge of this building. He would love to be able to fight along this kind of a line, I think. Now, Toby's Troll's not necessarily always having the speed to do so. We do see a buff going down for those Creel Warriors, and I'm just gonna go and take a look at what that might be. So we have a mist going down on the Krillstone Warriors, and Toby has a very interesting positional play going on with different layers of different units, all kind of interlaced with each other. So what we're actually seeing is seeing lines of Troll Warriors, behind which we have 2 shield guards in these 2 warders here, with a 3rd warder being here. Next to which, slightly to the side and behind that, we have 2 champions that are from this champion unit over here. Sorry, this champion unit over here. And then we have a bomber right here in the back. So it looks like the front crew warriors are going to be taking some shots. They're going to be able to have 2 of them essentially saved by these 2 warders. And he also is in a position whereby if these frontline Krillstone warriors are engaged by any kind of meaty or warjack-like silhouette, that these Trollkin champions can be mobilized to take out that threat. And against the Lightjack, 2 Trollkin champions are going to be able to do some good work. Oh, here we go. So Toby just checking the range on his stone, and that Trollkin warrior out there on the flank is not covered by the aura. This one right here. I believe what we're seeing here is shots from the from the warjack. It's positioned right here. So we're just getting some damage rolls here from this grenadier fire, which has cleared a nice little chunk out of this Krillstone warrior unit. Marcin just talking through with his opponent the synergies that he gets from the various trencher support for the grenadier. And I think we're now going to be seeing unit activation. So I think we just saw Hitch activate and give the, looks like the long gunners reroll on their combined ranged attacks, if I'm not mistaken. Those in the chat, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. So I think Marcin is now taking a look and just measuring out how many of his long gunners he can bring to bear against this Krillstone warrior unit. And obviously, when you have this many guns and that much range, you always want to try and go for the full unit wipe. The only question is whether or not that would be a potential overexposure on his part. And we're going to see just how heavily he's going to commit to this ranged volley. If he stays at max range, he's not really under any significant threat of being engaged in melee next turn, which would potentially allow him to have another turn of the volley fire we're about to see. And I think that's what we're going to be seeing, is he's just going to start assembling his ranged concave, which is especially useful because of the fact that this obstructing piece of terrain here means that forces are going to be funneled, Toby's forces are going to be funneled like this, meaning that the concave is even more effective at being able to really focus fire anything that comes through here. And then when necessary, you can actually pull this concave backwards laterally and get some extra distance and keep the party going for multiple turns. The question is whether or not you can do that under the clock pressure and the scenario pressure. So I think all of the long gunners have finished moving, so there's not much going on in that department, but we're going to be seeing some damage rolls come out here now. So let's take a look. Okay, so keeping in mind here that this crystalline warrior over here that has just been removed, I believe the first shot was taken by a shield guarding warder, thus doing little damage. So now we're going to be seeing some shots, and it looks like they're going into the warders. Oh, let me check where there's how many of those are warders. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. The warders are actually slightly further back, being here, but one of them just having shield guarded for the officer that is being targeted now by this ranged fire coming out of these long gunners right here. So let's just take that top view to see. Oh, hello, there we go. It manages to get one of these crew warriors up here. So I think in terms of casualties, we can just see some of them up here. We have already, I believe, 6 crew warriors that have been removed. Just over there for Toby. Meaning that half of the unit of crew warriors is now gone. Now this is not necessarily a big problem because that is partly their job, to take all of this anti-infantry range fire, but he can't just take it for free and get nothing from his opponent, because Marcin is just simply going to be able to keep this train going and sandpaper Toby's army down to the point where one of his flanks will inevitably collapse. Now, both of them having played a fairly refused flank, putting an absolute minimum of models in the bottom rectangular zone. We simply having a dog and a grenadier for Marcin. I'm going to be very interested to see if those two models can effectively contest and fight for that side of the board. There might be a chance whereby just Toby's inherent lack of speed may prevent him from being able to contest this flag down here, which can be captured by this doggy, and that might give Marcin a scenario lead that he shouldn't really be able to get that easily. Toby should make it cost more for the Cygnar player to get free control points. you should have to invest much more into this section of the board to protect it and defend it. And only then could Toby say, okay, you know what, I'll let you have that control point. You've committed so much of your forces to a particular board of the terrain, part of the terrain that I'm not interested in, and I'm just going to go over here on the other side of this table and score my objectives over here and go for my win condition. So speaking of which, let's actually take a look at the win conditions that we have for these respective players. Now both of these actually are armies that really like to play for attrition. Toby's having a lot of damage output in the 2 units of champions. And of course Madrak himself, who is fairly capable. Then we also have the large number of models and boxes that Toby has. The champions and warders being fairly tough to kill. With also a good Creel Warrior unit screen. So I would rate Toby's army very highly in terms of attrition. We're just seeing the Haley unit activate for Marcin right now. Now the Haley3 actually is also, this particular Haley3 list in my eyes is also fairly well suited to attrition, having enough bodies to be able to play it out over several turns and having enough volume of fire to be able to do significant points of damage, and with the defensive capabilities of both the trenches, the theme bonus for the trenches and the spell list that Haley3 brings, I think you actually have a surprisingly durable army. And it's one of the things we've seen multiple trencher builds at this convention so far, and most of them are fairly survivable and fairly difficult for their opponent to deal with. Most of them being run with Haley3, probably because that +2 defense bubble is just so damn good. Well, I mean, no, it's Haley3. Haley3 is just amazing. She's probably, in my eyes, probably the best caster in the game. She's just incredibly difficult to play, and that's why we haven't seen many people field her with the international tournament success that we would imagine. It's mainly because of the fact that she requires a lot of reps. And it requires a lot of very intense training. But now that Haley2 is dead, we can look forward to the future and maybe see a brighter future where once again Cygnar players can all just pick the same initial caster for their 2 caster pairing and no longer have to live in fear and uncertainty. So we have So Marcin seems happy with the damage that he's done so far, being quite comfortable to chip away at the Trollbloods and to put up actually just a bare minimum cloud wall, saving himself a lot of time and hassle by not deploying the full entire unit of infantry smoke wall. So let's take a look at how he has positioned his trencher infantry. So what we're probably going to be looking at is we see, I believe we have 1, 2, 3 here, a cluster of 3 here, a cluster of 2 here, 1 hiding behind here, and then we have, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4 there, and then another one who is lost somewhere, maybe behind here. So this means we're probably not going to be looking at cloud cover for the bottom. Potentially only a quick 2 clouds down here to block line of sight to the dog, potentially. If you could line up to have one cloud here and another cloud next to it, the dog could stand here in relative safety from these champions over here. Now, these champions in the south are going to have to make the long and difficult journey around this forest. And with their naturally low speed, that is going to take a while. And that really is one of the disadvantages of Toby's army. And we've actually seen that play out on this particular table earlier, whereby the restricting elements of the terrain in the middle of the board are really funneling Toby's forces. We saw a Boulder 2 game whereby Boulder 2 was able to utilize one of these choke points against Toby, and combining that with a wall and the low melee range of the champions, was able to essentially hold in place a maximum unit of champions with a Scaldi and a Sorcerer for an entire turn. So the traffic jam scenario is something that Toby has to watch out for. The Trollbloods with all the medium bases, this is obviously exacerbated. We're going to be seeing now his Creel Warriors. Sorry, not the scenario, we want the top view. So now we are seeing the positioning of the remaining Creel Warriors. So it looks like we have 4 over here. The Creel Warriors that Toby brought being a bear unit, so no attachments, meaning that these 4 are the last remaining members of the unit. And this time he has placed them in base to base, so I think he may have had a little reality check from these long gunners in terms of the damage output that he has to take into account, and also from this Grenadier. And so now he's decided to make a line of sight blocking wall with his remaining Creelstone Warriors, and we're probably going to be seeing the champions make a push into this zone. Champions unit being fairly spread out, actually in little pods of 2, here, and here. That being the max champions with the Sorcerer and Scaldi. So Toby is now coming to grips with Marcin's Cloud Wall and how it limits his options. He is, I believe, so he's putting up Harmonious Exaltation. So Madrak is right here with the Bouncer right behind him. And we're going to be seeing where Toby wants to position his Warcaster, because he has to keep in mind that we have, I believe, Baby Haley there, with Grandma Haley here, and Haley herself there. That we could be looking at, so we're definitely looking at quite a heavy push towards his left flank, but Toby has to be aware of the knockdown assassination potential. Haley3 is one of the best casters in the game for a reason, and one of the reasons is she has a very long spell list. If you combine her and her 2 echoes, you essentially get 2 spell lists compared to other warcasters, and not only do you get twice as many spells as other people, but they are all money spells, including a knockdown assassination enabler, which is always nice to have in your spell list. The ability to at range engineer a reliable knockdown on an enemy warcaster is a hugely important tool to have in your tool bag for a competitive list. because it allows you to exploit positioning mistakes by your opponent to an extreme degree, and that's what you want. You want to be able to seize an opportunity of a misplay and either immediately get a very strong alpha by doing something like picking off a enemy heavy, or getting the immediate victory via assassination. I think all the truly great casters have something akin to this in their either in their spell list or ability kit or whatever. All the really great casters have something that will allow for that. So, as mentioned, the Troll champions in the south are completing their great journey. Some of them even having made the choice to traverse these forests here, and are at least in a position to be able to contest quite decently this bottom zone. The question is whether the Trench Buster and Grenadier are going to be able to finish the job. Toby just showing off the fact that he has personalized movement widgets, so he doesn't forget his own name. So let's take a look at exactly where these champions are located. So, so we have a fairly aggressive push here. We have some champions here. We have some champions here. This is obviously next turn. These guys will have the opportunity to do some real damage here. Potentially going for the objective, which would be a very fortunate early scenario advantage, which Toby could get here. And getting to the enemy objective as trolls is not particularly easy, so kudos to him for having put himself in a position where Marcian has to consider the fact that his objective may just get killed next turn. So we have an aiming snipe going down, needing a 7 against so I believe he has just shot his own bouncer so he shot his own bouncer in melee with the bomber, and then managed to spike the damage roll, doing 7 boxes of damage to his bouncer, and hoping to wipe all of these trencher infantry with the blast damage. So let's take a look here how he does. We're hoping for some nice solid damage rolls, and we have one failed tough. We have another tough going, which has passed. So we have a knockdown trencher, and I believe we have at least another 1 blast damage roll for this. Oh no, apparently he was out of range. So manages to snipe a trencher infantry. So I believe we're seeing some more blast damage being hurled at via this bouncer here. Unfortunately, Toby failed his damage roll against this trencher here. So he's so far managed to kill 1 trencher infantry for 7 damage to his bouncer. We will see if it is worth it. And now we are looking at a proxy for Madrak1's positioning. So Madrak1 being positioned right here, with Haley3 being positioned right here, with Grandma Haley on the left flank and Baby Haley here on the right flank. So Baby Haley here is going to, if Toby really does end up putting his Madrak1 there, then that might be a very tempting target for Baby Haley to try and go after. She has a considerable personal damage output, so we may be seeing some Warcaster, at least Warcaster Echo on Warcaster action going on here. And we're gonna see how Toby plans on keeping his Warcaster safe. So let's, noticing just the clock up top here, we have 35 minutes now for Toby against Marcin's 38 minutes. Toby, having gone second, is, so we are coming up on the bottom of 2 now, which means that Scenario will start scoring at the end of Toby's turn here. But he is already working on a small clock lag when compared to Marcin. So we are indeed going to be seeing Madrak1 going there. He's going to be trying to kill some of these trencher infantry. And we're seeing some tough rolls now. Ooh, he doesn't make it. Okay, let's see if he does anything else with his Madrak activation and how much he's going to be camping. So we do indeed have a feat coming out of Madrak1. We also have even ground coming out, and we also have, I believe, 0 camp. I couldn't see any fury on Madrak, so he's looking for the. Oh, he also, by the way, he healed 4 points on his bouncer, which is nice. Largely undoing the damage that the bomber had done earlier. And now we're going to be seeing, I think, the rest of his forces positioning in such a way that, first of all, that Madrak obviously is safe. Then he's going to assemble a little bunker over here, with then big ambitious plans to break through here next turn and get lots of juicy kills, which would also significantly take the pressure off of these forces over here. Mr. Williams in the background just exclaiming his shock at, I believe, being ambushed by blood witches. Yeah, his opponent now crossing over into the once sacred territory of his opponent's side of the table. Anyway, that is just cricks being cricks over there. So we have no need to concern ourselves with that one here. So by the... Oh yeah, so we're taking a look if Toby probably still has left his Fury tokens I think over here or over here. I believe this is this thing down here. I believe this is currently Madrak's stack of abilities and fury, and we do in fact see one fury at the very least. So now doing the stone positioning, or making sure that the models that he's activating now will be in the stone's arc when it positions later. We have now a thoroughly solid second line of infantry in the champions, pushing up on the right hand side, and like we had talked about earlier, it's probably going to be using them as a screen, these Krillstone warriors, to try and mitigate the incoming fire to these champions. Okay, so Toby is going to go ahead and score 1 from his friendly flag. Obviously denying the enemy flag with this goblin chef over here, who's basically been doing this all weekend for Toby. This little guy has been caught in other games sneaking around the sides and then just coming in for the really sneaky little contest, and yeah, it's a very dedicated 1-point scenario piece in this particular list. So Marcin is just considering his assassination options, having just had a Warcaster planted firmly in the sights of his guns, and he's just checking the defensive stats of Madrak right now. He's taking a look at the stone aura to see if he's going to be able to break through this armor. This stone aura seemingly covering almost all of Toby's army, with the possible exception of maybe 1 or 2 Kree warriors all the way out over here on the far flank. But everything that is important is in the stone aura. Oh, and of course this poor goblin chef is also outside the stone aura. But everything important is in. And now Marcin has to try and leverage some serious damage potential, because if he does not find a way to stem this incoming force and to delay it, he is going to be in severe problems, because not only is his caster potentially under threat, but his objective is under threat, and he stands a significant chance of having this entire detachment here on the bottom completely annihilated and wiped off the board if Toby decides to take a left turn over here. If he decides to take a left turn and to kill all of these models down here, he can score potentially 2 zones up here while still scoring a flag up here and getting the objective here, which would be a massive scenario boost for the Trollblood player. So Marcin has to think very carefully now about his target selection and about how much he thinks he can get done. He really can't overestimate his own damage potential here and then get caught with his pants down. I think he's going to have to do definitely something with Haley to make her safer. I would be tempted to go for somewhat of a lateral move with Haley, just to stay out of some of these threat ranges, because the potential mat 9 on the champions is not insignificant, particularly in this matchup where Marcin is relying on his high defense to carry him through. The champions are actually a very good counter to a defense skew. Well, at least they are the best counter that Toby has in his list right now to defense skew. So we see the planning now for Marcin. He's going to be thinking what to do with his focus. Now he has the ability to knock down a specific target. And then he has to see how he's going to be able to leverage that. Potentially what we may be seeing is two individual battle plans, one for the left-hand flank and one for the right-hand flank in the middle, with the left-hand flank focusing mainly on maintaining board position and whittling down the Crystone warriors and the champions in the back row. And then we could be seeing a collapsing inwards of these forces on the right-hand side to focus fire against these champions over here, and to try and really put a dent in. Bouncer being a potentially juicy target, but a tough target to crack. So we are seeing the Warcaster go first now, the unit. So we are going to see here now what Marcin has chosen to do with his turn. This is going to be based pretty much very heavily on the Haleys and how they choose to act now. Okay, so we're seeing... Okay, so we're not seeing a revive, we're seeing a ghost walk. So he was thinking about reviving a trencher infantry and using that to block the path. Apologies. And making sure to remain within unit coherency, so he's basically just going to hold position with Haley. He is going to put down a ghost walk here. He is going to take a shot on one of these champions, which hits. Oh no, it doesn't hit. And that ends the Haley's activation. And he's now moving on to Ayana and Holt. Although, oh no, I think this may have been Murdoch right here. Yeah, so Murdoch just went first using his gun, it looks like. And doing 4 boxes to a champion, which is nice. And some more spread out damage to the champions. Now coming in from Holt. Toby choosing to spread it out evenly, much to Marcin's annoyance, meaning that he is going to pretty much have to concentrate the fire from all of these forces down here in order to even start killing a single champion. So he just has to kill the entire champion unit in one go, I think. Taking some shots on the bouncer now. From the grenadier. Sorry, that I believe was a trencher buster. Now we're going to be seeing the grenadier open up on this bottom champion. Negative. We have a change of target here. We're going to go with this one. I think he's just checking to make sure that shot doesn't get shield guarded. Oh, there we go. So one champion is down. Unfortunately, it was the one that only had one box left. So that lovely damage roll being largely wasted. So we're gonna be seeing, and he makes the, no, he fails the tough roll there. So we have 2 out of 5 champions down now. We really need to see those other 3 go as well. But it looks like Marcin might not have the firepower necessary on this bottom flank to finish the job. The Trenchbuster is now looking what his options are. I think we're just gonna see a shot here on the bottom champion. Yeah, so we are gonna be seeing a shot from the Trenchbuster, which hits. So power 16 damage roll here, which should be able to take out this. Oh no. It only does 2 damage to the champion. That is very unfortunate. So, Marcin going into the tank now is trying to figure out, so it looks like he is realizing that he may have to pull forces from his left flank in order to reinforce the middle. I believe that is Finn that we are seeing, who's getting the range on that bottom champion. So very well spotted there with his incredible Gatling machine gun, but he misses, which is very unfortunate. So we're going to be seeing just how many forces Marcin is going to peel back. He may potentially request the aid of some of the long gunners here, and I think we're going to be seeing a lateral movement. So I think once again the long gunner is getting the combined arms plan, and he wants to clear the zone. Okay, so Marcin has decided that he wants to punish Toby for not contesting the bottom zone enough, and he has to snipe a Goblin Chef and a champion that I believe is on 4 boxes left to do so. But it doesn't look like he has the range. Oh, or does he? Oh, he does. It looks like he will have the range on the Goblin Chef. It looks like it. He's going to be able to get 3, I believe. Let's take a look from the top view whilst he measures this out. So we have the guys, these long gunners coming here, and we have the front 3 guys over there. Those are the ones who could make it as far south as possible, and we're probably going to be seeing these 3 long gunners trying to take out this Gorbachev, and then the remaining long gunners trying to focus fire over here. So splitting his fire to try and capture the bottom zone and thin the herd in the top zone. Yeah, so 3-man combined hits, kills it fairly trivially, and Marcin is 1 step closer to not only equalizing scenario, but potentially going into the lead on scenario. Although it is fairly unlikely that we're going to be able to see any contesting here. Although I think if he were to kill some of these Creel warriors with the damage rolls that he's doing now for the remaining long gunners, he might be able to get a Trencher Commando over here to contest this particular flag, which would allow Marcin, if he were to clear this bottom champion, to control this zone with the Grenadier he has sitting right here, and to control this flag with the dog he has sitting right here, which would actually give him the scenario lead and kind of flip the table on Toby right now. So we're taking out Creel warriors and Marcin hoping here that Toby will fail his tough checks. Nothing yet. I have some unfortunate damage rolls on Marcin's behalf. So there we go. And he toughs. Yeah, I believe the Fellcaller having gone for the no knockdown. And I believe we are not going to be seeing any Creel warrior casualties here. This is down to his last shots. Marcin has to really make something happen here. And we have 1 dead troll. Oh wait, here we go. There's the last attack. And he doesn't get it. I believe that may have been a single attack. So he gets 2 Creel warriors, which I think was less than he was expecting. I think he was expecting to get probably just all 4 of them straight up. He wasn't expecting to not make the damage rolls on some of these combined attacks. And there we see the contest. So we have the Trencher Commandos moving now, and they are going to be now flanking around and enveloping Toby on his left side. And just spreading out these particular models. These models are all in really great position to be safe from retaliation, and then to run in to contest 1 at a time for at least another 1, 2, 3, 4 turns. So Marcin seemingly completely happy to just sit on this line here with Grandma Haley and his Warjack, to utilize this position here with his long gunners to clear anything that enters the zone, and to use these flanking models here to contest the zone so that the opponent does not score it. So the Trencher Commandos are going to pop some shots here. Oh no, so the Grenadier is popping some shots now. Yeah, I believe the Trencher Commandos just ran because they needed to get the distance. So taking a look at the blast, 6-1. You may be getting a nice little money shot right there. Looks like three champions, but he can't damage them with his blast damage. So just pre-placing the Cloud Wall for his Trencher infantry. So this middle section is going to be a little bit tricky. So he's going to want to try and surround Madrak with Cloud templates, and the question is whether he has enough Trencher infantry to get the job done. It looks like he will be able to. Yeah, so these two over here will be able to also lay down the clouds, and then potentially doing it like so. More like this. Blocking line of sight along that axis. Line of sight blocking over here in an attempt to keep these guys safe and these guys right here. And that is what we're seeing here. So we're going to see. Oh, so he decides to put a third Cloud template in the top. Now having a line of sight blocking for this entire section of the map right here. That makes it much more difficult for Toby. But he is just going to really deal with the situation like a troll does and just steam ahead through this Cloud Wall and just kill everything that's on the other side. I think Toby is not having any issues there whatsoever in terms of complaints or problems with Cloud Wall. He's just going to walk through it. And he is in range to do some damage next turn and really start putting the pressure on Marcin's Warcaster. So we have the scoring ongoing now. He is contesting the top flag, whereby Toby does not score here, and he is scoring his own flag, equalizing the score now at the beginning of turn 3, so the top of 3, to a score of 1-1. So Toby realizing the weakness of his left flank. He does, however, have enough resources to go out and kill some stuff. These three champions are a little bit tied up right now, so I would be expecting to see one go into the Grenadier here, and these two finishing up this Trench Buster. Although I would prefer it, if I were in Toby's part, I would prefer doing so by scooting around and getting these two champions to at least one of them stand in the zone and then the other one toe in the zone. So that way he doesn't take any free strikes, he loops around and then he puts two more models to contest the zone. So we're seeing the bomber activate first here. Well, that's not a fantastic view. Let's stick with the top. So the bomber has line of sight issues, but potentially he can get something through here. Oh, he's going for the objective. Okay, so the bomber is going for the objective. It's going to catch a Trencher infantry here, and is also going to catch Ragman here, and someone just done messed with my camera. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, there is a little technical glitch I just have to fix right now.
Once you
and there we go. So Ragman is about to take a POW 8 blast damage, which Toby has decided to boost. And I believe we take some boxes, but he survives. So Ragman survives the blast. We have a knockdown trencher thanks to the tough roll. So he's taking a second shot on the objective, which is gonna kill it. And we're gonna roll the second blast now on Ragman, who, thanks to the damage he took from the first shot, has been killed, and this trencher over here as well, who has been knocked down and is subsequently killed by the second damage roll. So Toby's really opened himself up a nice little landing site for his troll blob to push through, his little caster bunker, and he's going to be able to just push his forces right into the vulnerable support section of Marcin and potentially cut off this bottom section of the Cygnar army from the rest of the army. If he pushes into this gap, then these troops here in the south will essentially be cut off and isolated. Fortunately, they will get the chance to relocate in this direction. That is assuming that the champions aren't positioned in such a way to counteract this. The champions in the bottom here being able to be placed in such a way to really box these models here in. So Toby is just fantasizing about the possibility of killing baby Haley by probably stripping the incorporeal with the stone and then either throwing something at her or just applying an axe to face. I believe the bouncer is just going to be the one to attempt that. No, that is not a bouncer. Could be a proxy for Madrak1 himself. Surely not. Yeah, okay, so we do have the bouncer going now. Getting a beautiful range on, I believe, these four models right here, that being Finn, the Firefly, the Trench Buster, and Baby Haley over here. And he's gonna start by laying into this Trench Buster, which is a very good idea. If he can kill this Trench Buster right here, he does free up 2 champions for activation next turn, and then if he were to bring his stone up to take care of the incorporeal for Baby Haley, he could kill himself an Echo with 1 champion and potentially kill the dog with the other champion or the Firefly. He has many options, but that all hangs in the balance based on what happens to this Trench Buster.
And I'm not going to try and train you. But I'm not around in the meta enough.
So the Buster has taken about 5 boxes here. So unfortunately, Toby is now going to have to adjust his expectations of what these champions are going to be able to get done. It doesn't look very likely that any other models might be able to help, although potentially we have a warder that could walk through this forest and get a reach swing on this Trench Buster. So that could be the attack that does it. He is probably going to have to spike quite a little bit for the damage. The Trenchbuster is having a fairly high natural armor of, I believe, 18. Lovely ladies and gentlemen in the chat, if you feel the urge to correct me, if you know what the defensive stats of a Trenchbuster are, feel free to let me know. I believe it's something along the lines of 12, 18 with 10 boxes. Something like that. So, fairly hard target to crack. So with that disappointing venture over here, Toby has now turned his attention to the right flank, where he is going to continue the grind. He has chosen to... Yeah, so he's got his champions all beautifully lined up right here to kill these trencher commandos. And he will not clear that one. And he should have another attack right here that also kills and finishes the trencher commando. So that is a... oh, okay. So this is the anti-contest bunker that Toby has assembled out of his unit of champions in order to literally and physically block his opponents from getting to within 4 inches of that flag. Although I think he may have misplaced this. I think these guys right here are not going to be able to stop somebody from standing just right here and still being within 4 contest. So a very cute strategy, a very Trollblood-ish strategy, but I think he may have wanted to make that circular wall a little bit wider to absolutely guarantee that not a single Cygnar model can get within 4 inches of that flag, except of course an incorporeal model who would just be able to run right in here. But if that were to happen, then Toby would have at least baited a major Warcaster movement because of the unit coherency, forcing the Haley herself to come over here and then allowing you to kill her. So that would probably still pay off. So Toby considering now, I think what he plans to do with the remaining models he has in the center of the table, namely the warders over here and the champion hero and Madrak himself, of course, who's sitting right here. So he's considering Madrak personally finishing off the Trenchbuster. We don't know if he has line of sight or whether this is going to have to be a walk. So it looks like this is going to have to be a slightly wonky kind of walk to here and then 1 inch into the difficult terrain to get the 2-inch swing across through this little gap here between these two champions. It would put Madrak positioned roughly over here, which would at least give him concealment, which would protect him against guns, but he is deciding... Oh, we've just paused the clock real quick so that Toby can go to the toilet, having to answer the call of nature. This allows us to have a little bit of hyperbole here about what we think Toby is going to do. So the score right now, I believe, is 2-1 on scenario in Toby's favor. But it does look like Marcin is going to be able to not only stop that drain, but potentially catch up next turn by clearing this bottom zone. Now obviously that depends on how Toby proceeds with his champions in the bottom, but if Marcin's Trenchbuster is able to survive, then those two champions are essentially going to be locked in place, meaning that only one champion is going to be able to go in the bottom, and that is going to make things a lot easier for Marcin, because he doesn't have to worry about potentially his Grenadier just getting removed off the table, or his Firefly, or his baby Haley. Those are all things that right now, as long as this Trenchbuster still lives, are quite unlikely. But if that Trenchbuster were to die before the champions get their unit activation, then the game would, I think, dramatically change. So very good placement here, a very good use of the Trenchbuster in just the right time to serve as a very tough roadblock that is now giving Toby considerable headache and maybe forcing him to drastically change his battle plan, which, if he decides to go for this plan of utilizing Madrak to finish the job, to kill the Trenchbuster, and advancing the stone to strip the Incorporeal off of the Haley in order to kill the baby Haley, maybe even the Firefly, and to get one champion into this Grenadier, potentially even two if he wants to clear it, then we see a huge sigh of relief coming from this entire section of the Cygnar army, because it means that they don't have Madrak bearing down on them, which is exactly what's going to be happening here. Toby is in fact going in on the Trenchbuster with Madrak himself. He has to finish the job that the Bouncer was unable to accomplish, and it's very likely here that he's going to be able to get the job done. Let's be honest here, but the question is, how much fury is it going to cost him? If he misses an attack or fluffs a damage roll, or if Marcin toughs, which is exactly what he did, then Madrak might have to spend more fury buying attacks than he would feel comfortable. Having to roll the damage roll against the knockdown Trenchbuster, he does in fact make it and then ends up killing him, but this does mean that Madrak is left on only 2 fury and not, say, 3 or 4, making him just that little bit more vulnerable than he would like to be, and Marcin making Toby pay dearly in terms of resource investment to try and extricate these champions. Now, the champions have now successfully been extricated, and they are about to go ham on these Cygnar forces over on the right. So we're just going to take a look to see whether Toby really is going to go for the baby Haley, whether he's going to ignore her and try to go for the other models, and what he does. If he does go for the anti-incorporeal, that does make the rest of his army more vulnerable, and means that the champions and even the warders in the middle of the field are going to be more viable targets for these trencher long gunners here. So once these clouds go away, the trencher long gunners might just take a stroll down south and just start sniping out warders and champions and everything, and potentially even Madrak himself. We will see. We will see whether the concealment and the 2 fury he has is enough to keep him safe. So we're seeing a very aggressive stone move there, and I believe I am 95% certain that this is in aura range for the anti-incorporeal, and it looks like that's exactly what we're seeing here. So baby Haley might be going down here as Toby sets up. There we go. As Toby sets up all of the support pieces that he needs to get the maximum value out of these champions right now. So the champions are walking in with the +2 mat bonus right here in order to deal with this absurdly high defense on this baby Haley. And we're going to see how many champions he's going to commit to baby Haley. So he is going to go for 2. Okay, so he's going to send those 2 champions in to go for baby Haley. He's probably anticipating missing 3 of his 4 attacks. And then he's just going to send in a sneaky charge on this Grenadier, hoping to do some damage. So we're gonna see now how much damage he can get done to this Grenadier. So he's looking at dice -2 with a charging weapon master, and he. Oh, so that was against Haley. So first attack actually went against Haley and one-shots her. So managing to get through the high defense thanks to the mat 9 now of these champions. He's now going into the Grenadier, and we're going to be seeing some damage here. Let's take a look. That is a fairly nice damage roll, and he's going to be taking out 1, 2, 3 columns. 3.5 columns on this Grenadier, taking out the left arm. And now the second swing is coming in on column 5. So his left and the right arm both are taken out on this Grenadier. So this Grenadier essentially crippled in terms of damage output and is now nothing more than a body to block his opponent with. So these champions really showing off their incredible damage potential. I mean, that Grenadier just got wrecked by one champion. One single champion just went in and took out 4.5, basically 5 columns. So this plan of this shift of focus to his left flank to address the issue of his weakening left flank maybe paying off hugely for Toby here. He's really getting stuck in now. He's taken out some significant models. Killing baby Haley keeps Madrak much safer than he was. And he's just going to choose to hold these Krill warriors here. So playing it very defensively on the right hand side, and he really is committing to this left hand push here, and now has piled on the pressure and is scoring up to 3-1 at the end of turn 3. So Toby now has the scenario lead 3-1. He has 12 minutes left on his clock, and Marcin is starting his turn 4 with 17 minutes left on his clock. So a little bit of clock advantage from Marcin, and we're going to be seeing now if he can clear this bottom zone. Now the problem with this bottom zone, unfortunately, is one of the Krillstone members has now snuck in there to contest, which may be problematic to remove for Marcin. So we're seeing the focus allocation now. The Grenadier in the bottom having 2 broken arms, but still a functioning cortex and I believe a functioning movement. So he can at least kick his opponent in the shins. And here we go. Yeah, so Marcin checking, and in fact all of his long gunners are going to be in range of the champion hero and this warder and whatever this model is. I believe that's the 3rd warder right there. Let me just go and check. Yeah, so despite this seemingly open space here, pretty much this entire triangle of territory is actually covered by these 3 warders who, with their reach, I mean, if we look at their reach envelopes for engagement distances, we're looking at something like this, we're looking at something like this, and then we're looking at something like this. So we have pretty much total coverage, and if you include the bouncer as well, looking like that, this entire section of the table is quite firmly under Toby's control. And being engaged by these warders is going to be a pain in the ass for Marcin. He's going to have to try and unpack this Rubik's Cube that he's been presented with by Toby. But unfortunately, it's a very big and very heavy stone Rubik's Cube that crushes you under its weight if you do not solve it in time. And that is what Marcin is dealing with right now. My suggestions would be, I think the most important models to remove here are probably this warder here, then these 2 champions here, because otherwise they will just completely run the bottom. And I would probably also imagine that this champion hero here needs to be taken out. So, and those are all juicy targets, but those are also all very meaty targets. So Marcin going into the tank now, having spent now almost 4 minutes of this turn just thinking, and he needs to start activating models. And there goes the dog to start the turn off in order to make room for the trench buster to get in on both of those champions. So we're going to be seeing some attack rolls here from this Trench Buster, who is going to be rolling in at a casual mat 10 because of the flanking bonus that he gets from the dog. So he's going to be putting a hurting on these champions here. And not a... That's a hit. But he's not going to be... Oh, there we go. That's a good damage roll. The champion taking 10 damage. We have a tough roll, and he fails it. And there we go. We have one of these champions that we wanted to get rid of down. These trench busters really doing quite a bit of work here, and also taking a lot of punishment. I mean, if I could get 2 of these for free in my army, I wouldn't say no. So we see the Firefly boosting his initial attack and missing. But getting the second one, we're going to be seeing no, that's not going to do it. He does 3 damage to the champion that remains. Unfortunately, lackluster damage rolls like that are not going to be able to kill these champions. So I think in terms of activations, we've seen now the dog, the trench buster, and the Firefly, and now Finn is going to go, and he is going to. He's going to go try and finish the job. He's going for this champion here. Looking with the bayonet, he gets the hit. And now he needs a firm damage roll here. Ooh. That may be able to do it. He rolls a 10. Nope. So just so we're doing a retaliatory strike, or so we're going to be seeing I think a retaliatory strike or a free strike against Finn. So Toby has managed to spread out the remaining damage, now leaving these two champions on one box each. The Grenadier is going to have to do it with his broken arm, and fluffs the attack roll even after having boosted back up to 2 dice. So it looks like these two champions are going to be surviving and are going to be in a position to punish Marcin next turn. I mean, I imagine that at the very least this Grenadier here is going to bite the dust, and potentially also this dog and this Trencher Buster, although I would imagine only one of the two is going to die. So because the Trench Buster will probably take both of Toby's swings to kill. The dog with its high defense may also, if he gets lucky, take 2 hits to kill. So, however, the Bouncer is perfectly positioned in order to take care of both the Firefly, the Trencher, and the dog right here next turn. So he's going to be lending his assistance, and then this cluster of Cygnar forces are going to get taken apart piecemeal over the following 2 turns. So I believe Marcin is going to go with his Warcaster activation next. He is down to 8 minutes and 45 seconds. We are only in turn 4 of the game here, so a victory by Death Clock is potentially open here. This is the disadvantage of the Haley3 high model count list, is especially when you have to be very careful about not getting assassinated and making sure your positioning is perfect and your defense bubbles are all in the right place. This can cost you a lot of time, and that's what we're seeing here. We're probably going to be seeing a revive. Yeah, so we're seeing a revive for a Trencher Infantry who is going to be reassembling the Cloud Wall.
Did you have your stuff from our room?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I got everything here. Thanks, man.
Robin, har du tagit dina grejer från rummet?
And we see Ayana and Holt, who I'm sure have been ghost walked. Yeah, so they have in fact been ghost walked. I believe the way that it was done was that ghost walk was given to the long gunners from Grandma Haley, and then recast by Haley herself onto the Ayana Holt Murdoch team. And we're going to be seeing, I believe, a run from Ayana and a charge from Holt, and a charge from Murdoch. Or just a charge from Murdoch, I'm not sure. So, Toby... Yeah, so that was indeed a gunfighter charge with Holt going into the champion and using his grievous wounds to ensure that Toby does not in fact get a tough roll. And that champion is now dead. And he seems happy with that. I will be too. That's definitely a lot less damage potential that he has to face now on the southern flank. The Bouncer not being amazing in terms of damage, but he does have to realize that Madrak1 is standing right here, and he is going to be perfectly capable of just casually strolling into Ayana on Holt here and just wrecking them. Potentially even also killing more units over here if he chooses to commit Madrak. And so now we see the the long gunners. The long gunners who have been given Ghost Walk, who are just going to pile in. Yeah. So he's committing the long gunners. He's decided that he no longer wants to sandpaper away at these champions. So he's going to now saturate Toby's basically entire part of the board with his infantry. And yeah, so I think we may have seen Ghost Walk go down 3 times.
Yeah, you had to choose 1.1.
So Marcin utilizing the Ghost Walk, which he in fact did cast twice, once on Ayana Holt and once on the Long Gunners, to jam his opponent, ignoring all the free strikes that could potentially have been generated by these 2 blocking warders. He successfully identified that these 3 warders are not really a existential threat, and has decided to plug this side of the board to limit Toby's mobility, and he shifts the clock back to Toby with 4 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock, and Toby now has a significant clock advantage. He has 11 minutes to play this out, so he is able to do so quite casually, and as we saw earlier, Toby's little champion wall was assembled correctly, but not entirely in the right place, because there are 2 long gunners that were able to get into contest range of this flag. So Toby is now activating those champions to remove these jamming models. Haley looking awfully close to the kill box. Yeah, I believe he's literally just towing into the kill box, because she's under threat right now, with baby Haley being killed last turn by a champion under the anti-incorporeal aura of the stone. And there we see Toby now just cleaning up the long gunners with his champions and his Creel warriors, and is now focusing his attention to the middle of the board. He's going to be taking a look to see what he can get done with his bomber, and there are some juicy targets. There are some juicy targets for sure here. And that includes Holt, who is not stealthed. Needing a 7 to hit, he gets it, which will instantly explode Holt, and is trying to get Ayana with the blast damage as well. Norbert now joining the growing pile of spectators and potential shit talkers, as Toby manages to kill both Ayana and Holt with 1 bomb from the bomber, and is considering now what his options are for the second shot. So just taking a look whether or not the Grenadier in the back is a viable target. Oh no. Okay, so that was it for the bomber activation. Toby has decided to move on and is going to push the stone up the field now. And I imagine it to be highly likely that we are going to see a zone clear and potentially even also a flag score by Toby here. The question being whether or not Madrak can make this despite the forest. And that is questionable. That is very questionable. And so we have now the Grenadier getting removed from the table by the champion, having taken an incredible amount of damage on the initial charge. There we go. So Madrak is walking 3 and is going to be taking out these 2 trencher infantry here. Let's see how much focus it costs him to do so. We have a tough roll, which Marcin makes. He buys another attack to auto kill, leaving him on 2 fury. He has even ground up as well, and he's just going to be going for the 1 trencher. So just 1 trencher kill to clear the zone, and he is now scoring said zone as well, having towed into it with his Warcaster, and is now looking to probably bunker up around Madrak and punish Marcin for having to contest next turn, and then setting himself up to be able to advance to the flag, clear this area, and then a double score this zone and flag here. So now he's making his way, he's activating the waters, and he's trying to cut his way through these trenches. And Marcin is failing his tough checks, having lost 2 already. The 3rd warder in the back, activating now and doing his attacks. The question is, against whom? Oh, no, that was it. It's already finished. And he's moving on to the champion hero right here, who is about to slam a trencher. And then he passes the turn, having finished all of his important activations here, scoring, I believe, the top flag and the bottom zone. So entering turn 5 now for Marcin with 4.5 minutes left on his clock. So the top of turn 5 with a score of 4 control points to 1 in Toby's favor. Marcin really under a lot of pressure here to get something done. He has to continue contesting this top flag, whilst making sure that not only is this bottom flag contested, but also that this bottom zone has something in it. He's going to have to do so in such a way that whatever he sends down south here is going to be able to survive a Madrak1 to the face. Because otherwise Madrak is just going to walk right here, is going to double score and immediately shift the clock back and win. So the bottom half of the map being vitally important for Marcin now. We just see him now just throwing trenches, both the trencher commandos and the long gunners, just into his opponent's face. And we have a beautiful circular wall of champions and cruel warriors who are poised to destroy that next turn, but who may not even have to, depending on how hard Marcin is able to jam this bottom zone, and he's doing a pretty good job of it. The Ghost Walk really helping out. He is literally just putting all of his models into the bottom zone, making sure that the flag is contested and that Madrak cannot get anywhere near that flag. And he's going to shift the turn. He's going to prevent scoring. He's not going to score any points of his own. And he's just kind of hoping that, well, I guess he has to hope that Toby clocks himself out trying to declutter this bottom zone. Remember, if he manages to clear this bottom zone before he activates Madrak, he's going to be able to be in a position to just run and double score and immediately win the game. So that's what we're going to be seeing here by now, is Toby's attempt to clean out what appears to be 1, 2, 3, 4 trencher infantry alongside a trencher buster, a firefly, and a dog. There's a dog in there somewhere. And this one right here, that should also be towed in. Let's take a look at the top view, we can check that. Yeah, there we go. That's also contesting right there. So let's see if Toby has the volume of attacks that he's going to need. He can alternatively also utilize Madrak to help clear this bottom zone and then allocate the 2 minutes that it's going to take to clear this top zone of trencher, commandos, and long gunners.
To be fair, he doesn't actually need to do that. All he needs to do is run Madrak to the back of this zone, jam it in a little bit more, make sure nothing can get into Madrak, just clock over it, and all he's got to do is sit there. He's up on points. Unfortunately, Marcin's not going to score, and being 4-1 up, it's just Toby's to lose. All he's got to do is just keep Madrak safe, and the game's his.
Yeah.
With 2 turns to go.
Yeah.
Well, Marcin's got, turn 5, 2 turns left. Marcin needs a miracle to win this with 2 minutes 43 left.
Yeah, the only hope for Marcin here is that either Toby clocks himself by getting greedy and wanting to get the most out of all of his activations and wanting to kill every single model. He may just potentially clock himself just on clearing this zone alone. The Trench Buster having given him a lot of problems last time. That Trench Buster alone took him 5 minutes to kill, but he's not going to do that. So he's going to play it safe.
There you go.
And he's just going to shift over the clock, get a little bit of work done, position Madrak in such a way that he doesn't get assassinated, and then he's just going to shift the clock back. He's under no pressure here to try and score any more control points. Toby can just coast pretty much for the next 3 minutes and wait for Marcin to just run out of time and run out of options. Although I think he was trying to see if he can get a sneaky point in by killing this objective. So we're going to be seeing the Grenadier go for it now, outside the stone aura. So he might be able to do something here, but that's not going to bring him any closer to victory. I think this is more of a Hail Mary to just, I don't know, score more control points for the next rounds in terms of the matchup process.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it doesn't really matter. Everyone that's lost these first games, it's going to be a case of just playing for a little bit of honour in the next round. But yeah, I think Marcin played it well. It's difficult. It's a lot of armour to take down with those power 10 guns.
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
under the stone. Especially Madrak's feet. It's just so brutal in this matchup.
Although I think he did, however, make one mistake in allowing his baby Haley to setting up his baby Haley inside the stone's range of getting incorporeal stripped. That's what really did him in. Otherwise, he would have had a baby Haley that could just sit here, there, or there. I've been talking for 2.5 days straight. My voice is going.
No, that's fine. It's not my fault you got the voice of a 3-year-old. How old are you? 12?
12.
You just going through puberty.
Yeah. I got my 13th birthday next month.
But hey, did you find your first pube?
Not yet, but I'm down there with a flashlight every day, looking.
You thought you had one until you pissed at it, yeah?
Yeah,
that's fine.
It's annoying. So yeah, I think losing the baby Haley on the bottom flank just allowed Toby to kind of run away with the scenario scoring, and losing that bottom zone in the end cost Marcin dearly. We always did see it coming from the very beginning, because Marcin dedicated fairly little to that zone, although initially my idea was that actually Marcin was going to take this bottom zone, and that Toby was going to have a real hard time contesting it. But halfway through the game, Toby was in a position where he was here and he saw an opportunity to get some really good work done, and there we have the GG. The concede from Marcin. He's realized that he has no more options. He only has 30 seconds left on the clock. He does manage to remove the objective to try and reclaim some of his honor, at least in the closing moments of this game, but he was unable to ever really threaten Madrak himself, and he wasn't able to put up enough damage onto these champions that just kind of barreled their way through this forest to stop them in time, and he lost too many forces.
Like I said, it's so difficult. The list is fantastic. I mean, he's naturally with the solid ground. He's defense 16 against ranged attacks, melee attacks. I don't think Marcin doesn't have any blessed, so he can't get around that +2 defense. The champs again with Sanguine Bond, they just
absolutely.
They just soak up all that damage. They move forward. They don't care. Like I said, they move forward, they feat, so you can't charge them to get extra bonuses on them, and you just end up in this massive grind fest. And as you can see, the clock just shows exactly what it's like to play against this list. And then to top it all off, Madrak feats, they all become healthy again, and there's absolutely no way of coming back into it in some cases. It's difficult, it's really difficult.
Yeah, so a tough matchup for Marcin here, but both players having the tools to be able to deal with each other. But I think Marcin, I think at a certain point in the game, found his damage output lacking, and just wasn't able to apply enough damage to, especially those champions in the south. I mean, Toby Sanguine bonded the shit out of those champions.
Yeah, I mean
we're talking like, I think a grand total of like 20 attacks went into those champions, and there's still one alive.
Well, you got to think what Toby's doing is spreading all that damage as he goes along.
Yeah.
And then when he gets to the point they're each on like 1 health or 2 health, he takes the tough roll, and and
then he makes it.
He gets the tough.
Yeah.
And then all that work has gone into that, and
and you get nothing out of it. Yeah, absolutely.
It's soul destroying.
It is. It is
a little bit soul destroying. But what can you do? To be fair, Marcin also had tough on his side, so he can't complain about tough rolls. He did a fair couple of his own that Toby had to deal with. So I think in that regard, it's tied. But then again, Marcin's forces do not have the inherent durability that Toby's have. So it's a difference between being like, oh, he made his tough roll, I guess I'll spend an extra fury to auto kill this model, against Marcin's experience, which was, I just spent 4 model activations trying to kill this one bloody model, and he sanguine bonded all of it away, and then I do my final activation this turn, and then he rolls his tough. I mean, to be fair, the Trencher Long Gunners are, what is it, like Rat 9?
Yeah, they did good work.
They can get to silly rat.
Absolutely, but the low POW in this particular matchup, they were fantastic against the Krill Warriors. They absolutely destroyed the Krill Warriors as soon as they started getting across the table. And at a certain point, Toby just was like, okay, you know what? I'm not even going to move these Krill Warriors anymore. Like, they're just going to get shot to pieces. And he was able to shave off a couple of minutes of his clock over the course of the game by just basically being able to play this entire flank fairly statically. Like, he ran to set up his position with his little wall and everything. He did misplay the champion wall a little bit, because at a certain point he actually made like this beautiful base to base wall of 7 champions, 5 champions and then 2 attachments, at basically the 4-inch mark. But unfortunately he had a little dip in it, which allowed 2 models to just run in there and get within range. So,
but there's the beauty of them. They can hit and they get to overtake, and then he just pushes out that little bit, and there's his problem gone straight away.
Yeah.
No problem.
Fucking mosquito.
I don't know. Come to Amsterdam, get bitten by the mosquitoes. Disgusting.
So yeah, Toby taking that one away with a, I believe, a death clock win in this case. But an impending. It was officially it's a death clock win, but it was a impending scenario victory for Toby.
Definitely.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here for this, the round 1 of the ClogCon2017 Invitational. We are going to be back for round 2 at probably 12 o'clock.
I have no idea.
Depending on the lunch schedule, I will go and check for you now.
1.
Okay, so we have lunch until 1, so most likely we're going to be starting the next round of the Invitational at 1 o'clock. I will just check for you and then post the information, and then we would love to have you guys back for round 2 of the ClogCon2017 Invitational.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, son.
That was good.
Alright, let me just take a look at the timing. Man.
I wanted to play today, but it's not happening.
Yeah, I set up which I walk with that. So yeah. Never mind. Right. Be clear enough on that week then.
Hello Toby, how was your game?
You see the coins? I think that's what
Okay, apologies, ladies and gentlemen. We are just going to keep going immediately. So stay put and get ready for round 2 of the Invitational. The games have now all finished, so we're going to be setting up tables. We are going to be determining the next round of pairings, and then we are going to get right back into the next game as quickly as possible. So yeah, get comfortable, get something to eat and drink. Whilst we set up here, it'll probably be about 10 minutes before the next game starts. So yeah, take a quick 10-minute break, and then we will see you back here for round 2. Very exciting.
Gotcha, bitch. Because there's no way that is killing you, right? There's never going to be assassination.
Just where I wanted everyone wants to see that resurrection. Again, this is just the final. Good, we'll finish. I'm not sure So 2 crits rolls. So
setting up the critical Tony's beat me in our last 4 games running. Gotcha. You used to get taken down.
People have seen it and be like, it's terrible. But next time I come back, you win.
Cricks, pat, all that fight.
I feel bad doing that.
Everyone, if I would have been the organizer, I would have been definitely every round. I'm like, you do this service, Johnny, use this, and then you randomize the rest. And we're not always totally coincidence every time we do this. I have no idea how it happened. That's good that you're fine.
This is exactly almost. You've got Alexius, yes. No, I am not right, Alexius.
No! It's the best!
Acting now. Is it really bad? You can just ignore that.
And Martin, you're on table 2.
He was playing Thyron no speed, so he can hold his head high.
Should be a double check.
What a fancy oh my god, these corners. Contestation is real. Yeah, and then opposite. Yeah. Guys in there.
Scenario will not happen.
So that's the service. I am playing Aldrich 3 and you're playing anyone and Gaucher 2. Yeah. He's not the one with the little friend, is he? He's the bastard. Yes, is that right? What bastard?
No, he's the cursed.
Oh, the bastard's one? Has he also got Abyssal game? Yep. Yeah, just like me. He's the pod.
Do you know about this?
Tix's theme. I really want to ask you all about this, but I'll wait till after.
Really sorry, guys.
What?
Oh my god, the in-joke.
Who's nothing needs and in this series? Needs very much sprint, apparently.
I'll explain. I have to ask a guy on the CID forums. The most enjoyable one. Don't try and understand.
That girl guys eat stuff and then won't eat. That's what that it's not like you want to run away.
So Texas Raiders. I'm a bit confused by the rules now because they just gone through CID and they got treats, right?
Yeah, but not yet, and like not for this.
So, okay, so you don't have the solos, so I need to ask about them. I assume the gunslingers have magic guns, and the blood witches have magic daggers.
Yes.
But the blood witches still have dispel. I don't even have anything with dispel.
Yes,
They still have dispel.
yeah, so
And they have RFP on their daggers.
yeah. So and they have like becoming corporal.
Do they all have dispel or just the hags?
Just the hag.
Just the hag. And does she still have a drop for it? Okay, so she's basically the same. So we're still basically the same. So 3-5? Are they speed 6? And they're half pitch relief with 2 attacks. Oh, cool, neither. Still nice. Okay, and then the Raiders are just, they've got gang now, and all that shit. So they're speed 7 with reach, but no speed. Cool. And then you've got Gore Shade 2 with all kinds of sweet things. Yep. You really like crows, eh? Yeah. So maybe Chris great.
Is it the final already?
Too late. There you go.
Shit in the bag. It's the cocaine I scored in that.
I don't think that's okay.
Is that liquid heroin?
Alright, so you have all the 3.
She has a feat, it's a quite good feat. It's quite good. It lets her use all 5 of her arcane alignments. Do you want me to go through the arcane alignments? I can. It's plus 4 inch control range, plus 5 range for all your spells. Models in your battle group reroll attack rolls. -1 cost to all your spells. And return D3 grunts display in the unit.
Yes, you have to pay each list once.
Oh, you see. Yeah, that's so old school.
You don't care. You win this game and then you get locked in the final. It's fine. You don't care. Did you win? But you didn't have any fun?
Oh, wow.
We don't put anything in you at.
Fair, yeah.
Don't you think? I've got to take every platform I can, right? So.
Stop patting and saying, you're a free spot?
Yeah, but prepared.
Lucky.
Oh, you're playing. Oh, it's right. I have decided.
Yeah. I probably won't. Probably the wrong list.
I thought they would make a mirror match, honestly.
They started. Right. I will play the heretic.
Okay,
Ooh.
nice.
I need to check on.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to stop and start the stream real quick.
Always play them.